Welcome to the Live Ready Podcast, Beyond Think and Grow Rich, with me, your host, David R. Ibarra. This week, we're going to go retro again and view one of the most interesting podcasts I've ever done. It is hilarious. I'm going to interview my friend, Wes Johnson, and he's going to talk about Hank's Garage.
And we got Super Bowl coming up, and I guarantee your ass, Hank's going to be there. He's going to be carrying on and starting cars and making some big RPMs. That's what he does. Fast cars and fast women. That's what Hank likes. Yeah. Hank's Garage, hanksgaragevenue.com.
Live ready, reach higher, chase the sky, beyond think and grow rich, you'll learn to fly.
And welcome to Conversations with me, David Ibarra. Today we have a wonderful guest, good friend of mine that I absolutely highly admire, Wes Johnson. Welcome, Wes.
David, it's an honor to be here. And if I think about coming into the podcast, I had to think whether or not I wanted to have this type of exposure. And I could not resist. I could not resist the opportunity of coming and chatting with David Ibarra.
Well,
so thank you for the opportunity.
Well, I tell you something, Wes, we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about your life, your early life. We're going to talk about your parents. I want you to talk about your parents, and I'll coordinate the flow of this. We're going to talk about Wes Johnson was the owner, dealer of Menlove Toyota, the last of the little guys, and had one of the premier dealerships in the West. We want to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about what now in this Hank's Garage. So, Wes, talk to me first about your upbringing and kind of growing up in the automobile business, and talk to me a little bit about your parents and how they got into business.
My mom, there's a pretty good story there at Hank's Garage, and I've got a wall with all the pictures, and I've got a picture of my mother in 1951, and it shows her in New York City. She was a seamstress. She was a designer of clothes, and she actually was back in New York as part of her training and as part of her internship. And so I have a picture of her there in New York in 1951, and then right next to that, I've got a picture in about 1955 when they got their first used car lot, and it was just a little shed. It was a little shed that was on Highway 91. Now, Highway 91 is the same as Highway 89 now.
Right.
And so that's part of it's an American dream. It's part of what my mom and dad did was just coming.
So your mom was
she was Menlove.
She was Menlove.
Yep, she was Menlove.
And the garage that you were talking about, the first store, what was the name of it?
Bill Johnson Auto Sales.
Bill Johnson Auto Sales.
Buy your automobile from Automobile. And I've got a business card there I've got a couple of them actually from 1955. So anyway, as the timeline goes, the card is from 1955, and I think they got married in 1953 or 1954. And my grandfather, Roy Menlove, he's a successful guy, a smart guy. He had up on Christmas Street in Salt Lake City. I can't remember the name of Christmas Street there in Sugar House, but my grandfather, Roy Menlove, actually made that. He was a construction guy, and he actually took that whole circle there that's still Christmas Street, and he was the money and the brains and the motivation to build Christmas Street. And then he had the World Motor Hotel down on State Street. That is where O.C. Tanner is right now.
Wow.
And so I spent a lot of time as a kid swimming at the World Motor Hotel there in Salt Lake City. And anyway, my grandfather, Roy Menlove, helped my mom and dad get started in the late 50s. And my mom had to quit her dream of becoming a clothes designer.
Right.
And she I don't know how much money it was, but my grandfather helped get them started, and they put that used car building there on the north, just right down the street from where the existing car dealership is now. And it was right next to the Bamberger Railroad.
Uh-huh.
And the Bamberger Railroad was there in Davis County, and it was there on the north side. It was there on the north side, and so they started selling cars. Buy your automobile from Automobile. They started selling cars there on Highway 91.
So was your grandfather involved in your dad's used car dealership, and how did it evolve into Toyota dealership? Tell me a little bit, and the name change. Tell us the history of that.
That's a great story. They started selling used cars down there, and they actually took some time, and my father got hired up in Seattle, and they moved up to Seattle for a short period of time, came back into Salt Lake, and the Rambler, they actually got Rambler as their first franchise in 1961 or 1962. And so it was called Rambler Village. And they went from there. In 1962, they were able to get Dodge because Rambler went under.
Oh, yeah.
And then in 1965, they were able to get Toyota. And one of the best stories about how lucky my family has been, I mean, we put ourselves in some good spots, but the reason that we got Toyota is because my grandfather, Roy Menlove, and my uncle wanted to go deer hunting. And the reason that my dad got the Toyota franchise in 1965 was because they wanted the FJ. My grandpa and my uncle wanted an FJ to go deer hunting in. And my dad was funny because, Wesley, they used to call Toyotas were Japanese junk. That's all they were Japanese junk. And if you know Toyotas from back in that area, the Corona.
Absolutely.
And, the FJs were okay.
And they called them rust buckets.
Rust buckets, yeah.
That's
so
right.
we just lucked into the Toyota franchise, and this is a fact. The Menlove Toyota was the oldest Toyota dealership east of the West Coast.
Wow.
So there was still some dealers there in Torrance, California, where their headquarters was at, and some people there on the coast, but the oldest Toyota dealer east of the West Coast was my grandfather and mom and dad.
I'm old enough to remember when the Toyota and the Datsun, which is now, of course, Nissan, came in, and they were giving those to just repair facilities to show. And I was living in Provo at the time, and got a job as just a cleanup boy at Washburn's Garage, and they had the Toyota on display. And I heard all those things about Toyota. Wes, they gave it up and replaced it with Datsun. And it was just, so your family had been in before that. Tell us a little bit about how it changed its name to, or it became Menlove instead of Bill Johnson Used Cars.
Rambler Village was the first name they had. Of course, in the used car building down in North Salt Lake, it was Bill Johnson Auto Sales, and then it went to Rambler Village, and shortly thereafter, it became Menlove Dodge, and so the same building with the same sign and everything was there. And part of my looking back at that building and my childhood, I spent a lot of time there, and when you were talking about being a cleanup boy, one of the memories that I have, and I still see right where I was at and right where my mom was, and I remember coming in and putting the time card in and punching the clock, and I got 50 cents an hour. I got 50 cents an hour, and I thought that was.
You and I made the same amount of money. That's what Juno Washburn paid me.
I thought that was the coolest thing that somebody would pay me to come in there and I'd push a broom, clean cars.
Yeah.
But mostly I was just I was probably 10 years old. But going on to Menlove turned out to be one of the best things that ever happened. And Menlove still, if you go to Google, there are very few Menloves out there in the world. And there's a Menlove Avenue that's related to John Lennon, but almost everything in the Google Yahoo world is still Menlove Dodge Toyota, Menlove Auto Sales, Menlove Fresh Start. And so to this very day, that's what it's named. And they named the dealership in honor of my grandfather, because he's the guy that gave him some dough. And I don't know how much dough it was. I don't know exactly what happened, but I do know that my grandfather and also my uncle was a partner at one point. So that's where Menlove comes into play, and it was Menlove Dodge Toyota, the last of the little guys.
Right. Your mom and dad understood the importance that success was a combination of capital and talent. So your mom and dad was the talent, and your grandfather ended up putting in the capital. Tell me about it. It sounds to me like your mom and dad were working at the dealership, and that your mom was involved in the dealership. Tell me about that.
You've never met two opposite talents than my mom and dad. My dad was a promoter. He was a sales guy. Let's do this, let's do that. And my mom, on the other hand, was the accountant, and she was protecting her dad's money too. And she actually, if you really want to get down to it, and this is no disrespect to my father because he worked his ass off, but my mom was the one that really put in the hours and put in the time. And so what you had there, you had the accounting side, I think, I never heard anybody call my mother this, but I think she was referred to as something like the hatchet. She was the hatchet. And people didn't, she really wasn't the people person, but my dad was. And so you had two balancing acts going on here. And over the years, my dad would have liked to have expanded and grown and this kind of stuff, but my mom just kept saving money, and that was the balance, and that was the dynamic that was there with my family. My mom was a controller, my dad was a sales guy, and if there was ever a disagreement, it was somewhere in the middle of that as to how we're going to do it.
It sounds like the perfect specialized talent team. Everybody do what you're good at doing, and don't try to do what you're not good at doing. Add somebody to the team that loves that, and then you can reach this thing called the genius zone. Now, your father wanted to expand, but I'll tell you, this is, and as you know, I was in retail, general manager of a Ford store just south of yours, and everybody used to talk about the numbers that you did out of Menlove Dodge Toyota was like 4 times the volume of a normal metropolitan store. Tell me about how is it that you were able to grow that to be not only a high volume, but the highest volume dealership in the state of Utah and maybe the Rocky Mountain states?
It was the combination of Dodge, Toyota, and then in the late 80s, Fresh Start. And Fresh Start was a concept that was brought to me and my father in the late 80s. It'd probably be 87, 88. And there were some guys, I'll never forget them coming in to present, and they were presenting or representing a bank called AIB. And I was just looking at what's going on right now, and you've got AID, in the local political field right now. But anyway, it was Bob and Corey that came in, and I remember them coming in and presenting to me and my dad and saying, "Hey, this is a nice opportunity for you, and this is a good profit center."
And that business is known as
Fresh Start.
Fresh Start,
Yeah.
and it is
Remember
in the category of what in the industry they call buy here, pay here. What does that mean?
Or subprime. Mm-hmm. Subprime, and that's what Bob and Corey brought in.
Oh, subprime.
Is they brought in the subprime concept with AIB, with very high interest rates for people that couldn't get a loan.
Right.
With regular columns of finance, and so they brought that in. And my dad was a big thinker. He was a big thinker, and he liked to make sense of the world. Mm-hmm. And he said, Wes, I'm not sure we want those kind of people in our store. And we had that going back and forth. And I remember telling him, their money spends as well as anybody's money does, Dad. And in a lot of cases, they're just people that need some help to get back going. And so anyway, we got that Fresh Start department going with the non-recourse, with the subprime. Through AIB was pretty much the only bank that was doing it at that point. Mm-hmm. And at one point in time, I said, you know what, we should do a buy here, pay here. We should do this ourselves. And so my mom and dad, I pestered them. I was about 25, 26 years old. Mm-hmm. And I pestered them. I said, Mom and Dad, I want some dough to get this started. And so we got that started, and I remember going to a class, a seminar, and it was a company called the Reeves Data Corporation. Mm-hmm. And people in the buy here, pay here business know them because they were the people that well, I won't say started it, but during the 80s, they were the people that were putting together the spreadsheets and the programming and that kind of stuff. And I'll never forget, David, they brought me in and they said, okay, how many cars are you going to sell? What is the price point? What is the term? They put all those numbers in there, and it showed that I needed $5 million.
Wow.
And so that was my dose of reality that there was no way. And that's what I tell people when they ask about buy here, pay here, is you better take a look at how much money you got in the bank, because it takes a lot of money. And if you sell 5 cars this month, and you sell 5 cars next month, and you sell 5 cars next month, and then you've got 20. And then at that point in time, you got to buy some more cars to sell 5 more cars. It takes a long time for it to finally start going into a positive cash situation. And without exception, people always need more cash than they think they do.
Well, and for our audience that are listening to buy here, pay here in subprime, basically the program is and many people don't know this, about half of the population cannot get a traditional loan. Good people made bad decisions, maybe didn't get financial training on budgeting and running a financial household budget, but they still are good members of our community. And you brought this in a way that it wasn't demeaning. It was an education on how credit worked. And Fresh Start, the last of the little guys. You started doing commercials, last of the little guys. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the basis of that was establish or reestablish your credit.
Yeah.
That was the whole idea. It wasn't bad credit, no credit, bankruptcy. It was instead establish and reestablish your credit. And that's where we hung our hat, trying to make it a positive. And the way that it actually worked is people might get started in the buy here, pay here world. It was called Menlove Financial Services. And then at that point in time, once they got their feet under them, they were able to get a subprime loan. And then there were times when the manufacturer, there was a weekend that Toyota Financial Services gave us this great set of metrics, and we called them back and said, hey, are you sure on this? And we sold like 80 cars that weekend.
First-time buyers.
Because we sold,
yeah.
Well, we sold a whole bunch of brand new Corollas to people that were dying to get a loan.
You used to have a commercial where a couple was sitting on a couch. I remember a white background, and it was the last of the little guys, fresh start, good couple. And again, some people had categorized them as those people. And they were regular people. Yeah. As a matter of fact, we've all had family members that have got in trouble with credit. And you were the guy that first bring the professionalism, that it looked the same, the feel was the same as a new car buying experience.
Mm-hmm. Siegfried Jensen right now has exactly that same white background with people sitting on the couch telling the testimonial. Those were our testimonials where we would have our customers come in, and they were actual customers, and they would tell about their experience. And we had there was a cable deal we did. Guy's name with the cable was Kurt Burton, and he brought it to us, and we just got this smoking deal on cable. And we actually had people calling us saying, stop, enough, enough. We've heard enough of you. Go away.
Well, you built that business to where it was equal or greater than your new car business in count and in value. Why? Tell us a little bit moving on, because I want to get to Hank's Garage here in a minute. But I tell us about, you decided to get out of the business. What was the thought pattern that you went through that you decided that you're going to move into something else? You're going to take a different approach. Tell us about that.
2008, 2009, 2010, that was right during the Great Depression, or Great Recession. And that was right when we were building the car dealership and starting. And my expenses went from here to here, and dealing with the factory, dealing with the Image USA 2 Gestapo, I call them. I just said, I don't have any kids that want to take over. I don't have anything, and I've really had a gutful of.
Right.
And I didn't see a great opportunity. It turns out I was wrong, because the new car the new car dealers right now are making good money. And my idea was I was going to take that fresh start and take it here and have a very low overhead, have a very low footprint, a very small footprint, and make big profits. Well, just during that time is when the Wall Street money and everybody else jumped on board. And so the whole fresh start went from just being me, or just being a few of us, to everybody.
Right.
And now everybody in the whole world, if you're a car dealer or a used car dealer or whoever you might be, or any credit union, has subprime financing. Well, and so I didn't call that one right, David. I kick myself in the ass all the time, second guessing. But the one thing I can tell you is that I'm very wealthy in time.
Perfect.
I am very wealthy in time. I've got my time, and can you put a dollar amount on your time and your freedom?
You know, Wes, it's said that there's two ways you get compensated. One is in capital, and one is relationships and experiences, and that you got to manage the funnel of both. Some zero in on just capital, and then they leave this experience not having the greatest reward in compensation, or relationships and
your time
experiences
and your health.
Right.
Can you put a dollar amount on that?
So you still have the last of the little guys. It's still going. And then you moved into something else called Hank's Garage. Tell me a little bit about that and the Bat Cave.
The bottom of the Toyota dealership that we built, was a showroom, a storage area for all my cars. There was I don't know, 40 or 50 cars down there, muscle cars mostly cars that were Mopars, Dodges, and Plymouths, because I had nothing but Mopars up till 2006, when we sold the franchise, the Larry Miller, the Dodge franchise to Larry Miller. And that's one of the luckiest things that's ever happened to me and my family there as well, because in 2006 was right prior to Chrysler going bankrupt, and the first person that Chrysler would have come after was Menlove Dodge Toyota. They didn't like the duals. Dodge didn't like Toyota. Toyota didn't like Dodge.
Right.
I don't blame them. I said, I don't care. It's working for me. And fortunately, Larry Miller gave me what is termed a Larry deal. And, Larry and I were friends.
Right.
And we were able to get that deal done. And during that time, I just felt like it was time to get out.
So you moved all of your collection of automobiles, and you had the Bat Cave at the bottom of a Toyota, and then you moved that to what looks to be a hangar or of sorts. Tell me a little bit about where all your cars are, and what is this concept that you moved to that you've badged Hank's Garage?
This has got some great history, because 401 North, 400 West in North Salt Lake, Utah was and is what we call the recon shop. And the subprime cars that we had, the back-of-book cars, they were mostly rental cars. That's where we ran our production. That's where we ran the hundreds and thousands of cars through the recon shop when we were in our heyday with the non-recourse, with the Fresh Start. And that, I would say that was early 90s, mid 90s. And so I had a whole bunch of land just west of that recon shop that I owned. And so I had the owners of Performance Toyota give me 5 years to build the shop. And so that's what happened, is the Bat Cave turned into Hank's Garage. And Hank is an alter ego that I came up with 25 years ago. And the history of Hank was the Billy Bob teeth and the surfer wig and all the other things that come along with it. But I actually picked that up on a dealer trip. I was in Hawaii, and just by chance just got these teeth and the wig. And I brought it back to the car dealership, and I came busting in the sales meetings as Hank. And
so you used the Hank character as a motivational to kind of connect to people, make people laugh. So when you laugh, you have joy. And then when you go down on the sales floor, you could have the joy of selling. So the guest had the joy of the buying experience, and it wasn't so stuffy or transactional.
Yeah, you can feel that, Dave. You've felt that in the stores you've walked in.
Absolutely.
And part of my job, I would tell people, my job was I was the head babysitter for 200 people and all their customers. But beyond that, part of the job is to make it a fun place to come.
Perfect.
Make it a fun place. And I feel sorry. I have friends right now that every Monday morning, every Sunday night, they're just pissed. They are unhappy because they got to go back to work on Monday morning.
Yep.
And so that's what I tried to do, and that's what I try to do, is try to make it a place where you actually enjoy coming, because the customers know that.
Right.
Customer satisfaction index, that came into play in the 80s when I first started. But you know what takes care of customer satisfaction index?
Sure.
Is the employees.
That's right.
You get employees that are happy to be there, that are inspired, that are well coached.
No doubt about it.
That you have processes that they enjoy being there. The customer satisfaction part, yeah, it's a process. Yeah, it takes some managing and some nurturing, but take care of those employees, and the rest of it takes care of itself.
That is so true. We're going to do something a little different. We're going to stop right here and take a break and have a word from our sponsor, Yes Our Kids Can. And when we come back, we're going to have a special guest.
Imagine if you could have learned the Live Ready lessons as a child. Now imagine your children learning these principles through engaging stories, sing-along songs, themed games, and more, all designed over many years with real educators. With Yes Our Kids Can, this dream becomes a reality. Don't miss this chance to shape your child's path to extraordinary success. Enroll in Yes Our Kids Can today and be sure to give your child a successful tomorrow.
Well, we're back, and we have a special guest, a very handsome man by the name of Hank. Welcome, Hank.
Heck yeah, here you are. Let me give you a little bit. If you want to come to my orthodontist later, we can hook you up. But what Hank's Garage does is they bring all sorts of corporate events and all sorts of friends coming in, and we just kick some ass. And part of what I do at Hank's Garage is I tell jokes. And I'm going to give you a little bit of history about Hank's Garage. I used to come into sales meetings for the car dealership. And I'd go busting in there with all sorts of crazy stuff, attitude adjusters and whatever else. And I'd go in, and there were times when I'd go in with the corporate people there. You know what, David? They didn't know who I was. And so I'd come in there, and I'd sit down, and I'd start, there was a service class, and I'd come walking in a little bit late, and I'd go in, and these guys, there was a guy named Bill Potter, I think his name, from Chrysler, and I was messing with him to no end. He thought I was a mechanic that came in for some of the training. And so anyway, there were times when people didn't recognize me and didn't know.
Well, I can tell you, I don't recognize you now. You are Hank.
Yeah,
not
well,
Wes.
I tell you what, I can talk some serious smack when I'm Hank. Yeah,
I bet you can.
Yeah, that other guy, that bald dude, Wes Johnson, he's boring.
He's too stuffy for you.
Yeah, we don't want him. But anyway, I got a joke for you.
Okay.
Part of what I did just recently, David, I've actually got all of these jokes that I used to keep from the late 2007, 2000, all through that time, and I'd come into sales meetings, and I'd do a little skit. So this is one, and this one comes from May 3rd of 2009. This is a little David joke.
Okay.
All right. Little David is in first grade. Yesterday morning, when the teacher asked the children what their fathers did, all the typical answers came up. Policeman, fireman, salesman, etc. The teacher noticed that little David was being uncharacteristically quiet, and so she asked him about his father. My father is an exotic dancer in a gay bar and takes off all his clothes in front of other men. Sometimes, if the offer is really good, he'll go out to the alley with some guy. Yeah. The teacher, obviously shaken. Now, just imagine, this is a sales meeting we got going on here. The teacher, obviously shaken by this statement, hurriedly set the other children to work on some coloring and took little David aside to talk to him. Is this really true about your father? David says, no, he plays football for BYU, but I was too embarrassed to say that in front of the other kids. Now, keep in mind, this is 2009.
Okay,
so
got it.
Yeah, that's good for those of us that like the University of Utah, that kind of thing. But anyway, that's just one of them. And the part of the whole fun was creating fun and creating happiness, and we'd have all sorts of fun things that we do with Hank.
So, Hank, you have a event center, and I've been there. It's not small. It is gorgeous. Restaurants. It has cars, tables. And people go there and have a corporate experience that is wow. Now, you're part of that corporate experience because you're wandering around. Instead of doing card tricks and magic, they get a little dose of Hank.
They get Hank, yeah.
And his humor.
Hank will come out as part of the experience, and we got Super Bowl coming up, and I guarantee your ass, Hank's going to be there. He's going to be carrying on and starting cars and making some big RPMs. That's what he does. Fast cars and fast women. That's what Hank likes. Yeah. Hank's Garage, hanksgaragevenue.com. If you want to come visit, please do. And make sure that you stop drifting and you live ready. That's what Hank says. Stop drifting and live ready. That's what I'm thinking that I should do as Hank and hanksgaragevenue.com.
Well, you set me up perfectly. As a gift for being on our program, I wanted to give you a copy of my latest book, Live Ready, Beyond Think and Grow Rich. Thank you, Hank.
I am honored. Thank you very much. Hell yeah.
Thank you, Hank, thank you, Wes. You're somewhere in there, Wes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Live ready, reach higher, chase the sky. Beyond think and grow rich, you'll learn to fly. With every step forward, the future is bright. Live ready for the dreamers, ignite your light.